I believe that part of becoming an adult is realizing that life is fundamentally pain and suffering. Philosophers have been pondering this truth since the origin of civilization. You haven't truly experienced life if you haven't been pushed to the point of feeling like you would rather be dead. There are some who decide to live despite this suffering. There are those who confront life's chaos head-on, defiantly pursuing a meaningful existence. Obviously, not everyone is like this. Some people, when confronted by the same trials that we all face at some point, come to the conclusion that nothing matters, and that there's nothing that can justify the pain that comes with being. This nihilistic pattern of thought usually leads to one of two possible outcomes. On one side of the spectrum, we have the hedonists, the ones who decide to live out their life only doing what feels good. You probably know someone like this. These individuals tend to have no regard for their physical health. They regularly abuse substances like drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes. They don't exercise and regularly partake in various forms of instant gratification, like fast food and porn. And then there's the other side of the coin. The ones who decide that there's no point in being here any longer. You know where I'm going with this. On one side there's the hedonists, on the other side there is the unalivers. I want to eventually become a channel that is monetized, so I won't say certain words. If you don't know what an unaliver is, let's just say there's hotlines for people like that. Humans disagree with each other about many things. It's that contrarian nature inside of us that breeds innovation and progress. But I can say with confidence that we, as a species, can agree together on one thing. Reality stinks. The following are people that made great contributions to society with the help of their genius-level intellect. The men I will present to you today are considered some of the smartest men to ever exist. These men came to the conclusion that their problems were more than even they could handle. So, sit back and try to relax as I tell you their story. Otto Weininger was born on April 3rd in Vienna to Leopold and Adelheid. His father was a Jewish artisan, a goldsmith to be exact. Weininger was found to be a brilliant child. After graduating from primary and secondary school in 1898, he would go on to study at the University of Vienna. Otto proved to be quite the linguist. In his time at the university, he learned Greek, Latin, French, Spanish, Italian, and just enough Swedish and Danish to be considered a passive speaker. His field of study was philosophy and psychology, as well as natural sciences and medicine. Weininger would receive his PhD in July of 1902, and shortly thereafter would convert to Christianity. He only ever published one book in his career. His book, Sex and Character, touched on many controversial topics like gender, race, and cultural identity, as well as an intellectual history of modernism and modern European culture. In his book, he argues that every person holds both feminine and masculine traits and talks extensively on the nature of genius. He asserts that there is only one universal genius in whom everything exists and makes sense, and that this genius is present in all people to some degree. According to his biography, he was rumored to have been suffering from a manic depression. Slowly but surely, his mental health began to deteriorate after his book was published. Sources speculate that, coupled with the disappointment of his book not gaining the traction he thought it would receive, and his poor mental health, the young man decided that enough was enough. After spending the week with his family, he took a room in the Schwarzpanierstrasse 15. It was the same room where Beethoven died. It is believed that he sat alone with his thoughts for many hours, until finally, getting fully dressed in his best clothes, he pulls out a gun and shoots himself in the chest. He was found the next morning fully dressed in a pool of his own blood, unconscious. He was rushed to hospital, where he eventually succumbed to his wound. Otto was just 23 years old. Of course, the news of this tragic event spread, which obviously catapulted his book into a success, and it generated new and controversial discussion among the intelligentsia in both Vienna and beyond. Alan Turing. Alan Turing was born on June 23, 1912, in London to parents Julius and Sarah Turing. His father Julius was a civil servant, which meant that most of Alan and his siblings' childhood would be spent at a family friend's house while his parents traveled between Guildford, England, and India. As a child, Alan was known to be a shy and awkward child, but showed signs of genius early on. To him, nothing was more satisfying than tackling complex problems. When Alan was 16 years old, he discovered the work of Albert Einstein. Not only was he able to easily comprehend the advanced concepts, but he was able to engage with Einstein's questioning of Isaac Newton's law of motion. His grasp on these topics were so good that he was able to condense Einstein's theory of relativity in a small memo book for his mother. At age 22, Turing would disprove David Hilbert's questioning of decidability with his paper on computable numbers with an application to the Entscheidungsproblem. Turing's ideas are said to have laid the foundation for computer science. During World War II, Alan would aid in victory for Britain and its allies by breaking the German Enigma code. I won't go into how the Enigma machine works because it would take too much time, but let's just say his actions during the war saved many lives and potentially shortened the war by 2 years. After the war, Alan continued to make great contributions to computer science, and he was generally just trying to chill and live his life, doing what he loved. But one night, after reporting a burglary in his home to the police, they discovered that he was in a sexual relationship with a 19-year-old man. At the time, the United Kingdom had very strict anti-homosexual laws, and he was charged with gross indecency. In order to avoid prison time, he chose to be chemically castrated, and they proceeded to inject him with aggressive hormones to neutralize his libido. The drugs had a significant effect on his body and mind, causing him to grow breasts and to bloat. It was on June 7, 1954, 2 years after his chemical castration, Alan Turing was found dead in his home by his cleaning lady. He took his own life by biting into a cyanide-laced apple. And a side note, it is believed that Steve Jobs took inspiration from Alan Turing's death and made that apple into the logo, which is why there's a bite out of the apple. Whether that's true or not, it makes total sense. I mean, Alan Turing was the father of computer science, and we wouldn't have computers if it wasn't for him. So yeah, I'm gonna choose to believe that that is why there's a bite out of the apple on the Apple Macintosh. Edwin Howard Armstrong. Edwin Armstrong was born on December 18, 1890, in Chelsea, New York City. He was born to parents John Armstrong and Emily Smith, and was raised Presbyterian. As a teenager, he loved tinkering with old electronics in his parents' yard. His passion for tech was no mystery to everyone that knew him. After high school, he went on to attend the University of Columbia and was studying engineering. It wouldn't be until his junior year that he would come up with the regenerative circuit after redesigning Lee D. Forrest's radio. This is one of the most important discoveries in the early days of radio. After graduating from the university, he was stationed in France to serve in World War I. It was at this time where he would invent the superheterodyne receiver. After meeting with a gentleman by the name of David Sarnoff, they would go on to become business partners and make millions of dollars together with their monopoly on radio. Sarnoff was the owner of RCA, the Radio Corporation of America, and he paid Armstrong hundreds of thousands of dollars for his patents. By the way, if you would like to know more about Armstrong's inventions and how they work, I'll leave a link in the description so you can find out for yourself. But anyways, while fighting the legal battles to protect his patents, he would discover frequency modulation radio. For a long time, it was just amplitude modulations that ruled the airwaves in the 20s and 30s. I had trouble coming up with a way to explain the differences between FM and AM radio in a way that most people could understand, due to the fact that I'm not confident enough in my grasp on the literature on radio. So I turned to my good friends on Reddit for help. Special thanks to Crispy Undies and Zavelli. FM radio modulates the frequency instead of the amplitude, resulting in overall less interference and clearer sound compared to AM. This was a huge deal at the time, and everyone knew this. Sarnoff was not happy to hear about this, however. This amazing breakthrough would not only make his AM system obsolete, but it would also interfere with his plans to expand into the television broadcasting industry. Eventually, him and Armstrong would part ways, and Armstrong would start his own broadcasting company called the Yankee Network, and he called his radio station W2XMN, the world's first FM radio station. Sarnoff would eventually realize that FM radio might actually be worth investing in after all. He offered Armstrong $1 million for a non-exclusionary license to use FM. Armstrong declined this offer and insisted that he pay royalties like everyone else. This pissed Sarnoff off quite a bit, and he decided to personally see to it that his former friend and business partner was ruined. Sarnoff and his company began to develop their own version of FM and claimed that it was not an infringing FM system. He then began to encourage other companies to stop paying royalties to Armstrong. This was a huge financial blow to Armstrong. It was those royalties that were funding his legal battles. Eventually, Armstrong would run out of money and had to take out loans in order to pay his lawyers. His opponents made the litigation process as long and arduous as possible and stalled until he was penniless. After revealing these financial troubles to his wife, they had a huge fight that resulted in Armstrong lashing out on her and striking her with a fire iron. Horrified, she fled the apartment and went to stay with a family member. After cooling down, the reality of the situation dawned on him. He was broke and alone. Distraught, he writes a letter to his wife, apologizes for everything. He then puts on a trench coat and a hat and jumps out of his apartment on the 13th floor to his death. And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much if you made it this far. It means a fuck ton to me, you have no idea. Thank you guys for 20 subscribers, man. That is nuts. 20 of you motherfuckers. If we were in a room, that's a lot of people to be in one room. So thanks a lot. If you haven't already, go ahead and press that sub button, click the bell, like the video, comment something, man. Help me out. All right. Even if you hated the video, I mean, you're here. So just for holding on to your attention for as long as I have, I deserve a little something, man. Come on, do it. Don't be a stingy bitch. Reality Stinks episode 3 is in the works already. If you guys like it, let me know so that I can make some more. If you like the Reddit entries and want to hear more of those, you let me know. I'll probably do a Reddit entry video after the next Reality Stinks. That'll be season 2 of Reddit entries. And with all that being said, I have nothing left to say, so thank you for watching and have a good night.